What's up everybody, Tim Vix here and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video we are going to be talking about... Now without wasting much time, let's dig right into the first question. How much do I need to score in GRE or GMAT in order to secure an admission at ESCP Business School? Now to be honest, there is no specific cutoff mark in GRE or GMAT that will ensure you an admission at ESCP Business School. I can assure you that the GRE score or GMAT score or any test score for that matter accounts to only 10% of your application. The rest depends on your overall profile, your extracurriculars, and your academic achievements. If you think that having a high GRE score is going to guarantee you an admission at ESCP, then sorry to break your bubble, but it's not going to happen. Your GRE score is not the only thing that's considered in your application. This is actually a very big advantage for students who are not really good with these kind of exams. So my suggestion would be to focus on a decent score and work on your overall profile. Wait a second, Timvix. You just said there's no GRE cutoff, and then you are saying have a decent score. Why? Now, don't get complacent, guys. Just because there's no cutoff does not mean you can completely ignore the exam. Your GRE score still represents some part of your intellect, and having a good score will kind of ease the process for you. Which brings me to the next question, whether you should give GRE or GMAT. Earlier, most of the business schools were accepting only GMAT scores, but now that's not the case. GRE and GMAT both have equal weightage. A lot of students have this misconception that GMAT scores are more superior to GRE scores. Like if you have GMAT, you have an added benefit. That's not true, guys. Both GRE and GMAT have equal weightage. So I would say take advantage of that. Give a mock exam of both GRE and GMAT without any preparation and see which exam are you naturally inclined towards. If you're getting a good score in GMAT, then have your focus on that. If you're scoring better in GRE, then shift your focus to GRE, right? For me personally, I was able to get better scores in GRE, so I stuck with that. I personally felt I had more inclination towards GRE. I was able to answer their questions much better and quicker. So I shifted my entire focus towards that and I prepared for that exam. So that sums up the first part of this video. Now let's go to the second part. That's the tips for GRE. Now I'll tell you my story. I had a timeline, okay, and I had to give the exam in the first week of January, and I was late. Okay, I was really late. My preparations were not that great, and that's when I went to Google and I typed tips for GRE, tips to get high score in GRE, and I got so many tips, so many generic tips. There are so many tips out there, and some of them are really good, okay, but not all the tips work for everyone. So I'm going to share 5 tips that I selected from those vast list of tips and implemented in my preparation, and it actually worked for me. It helped me a lot, okay? So I'm going to share those 5 tips. So the first tip is a psychological one. Treat GRE as a game and not as an exam. I want you guys to formulate a strategy, identify the different types of question that comes, what are the different sections, how long does each section last for, everything and anything related to strategy, okay? Treat it like a game, guys. Now this might sound like a tip that I'm giving to some school kid, but trust me, even now, if you approach an exam with this perspective, it's going to be much less stressful and it's going to be fun. Which brings me to the next tip. Understand that GRE is all about pressure and time crunch. Now, if you're someone who has already started preparing for GRE and has given 1 or 2 mock exams, you would find this more relatable. But if not, don't worry, I'm going to explain. Now, when you study a topic and when you start to solve those questions at your own pace, there'll be a point when you'll feel like, are these actually questions that have been asked in GRE? Like, seriously? Such easy questions? And that's true. GRE questions are really easy, like especially the quant questions. Some of the quant questions are so basic, they're so easy. But I can guarantee you that when you attempt the same question with a timer ticking on the top, you are going to mess up that question for sure. So GRE basically does that. They not only want to know what you know, but they also want to know how quickly you identify and solve a problem. So how did I overcome this? Now, I used to spend some time studying the topic, revising the topic, and then I used to go through all the list of questions, the possible questions that can come related to that topic. And once I'm done with that, so I used to solve like 15 or 20 questions with a timer. That helped me a lot, guys. Trust me, solving 20 questions with a timer is much, much more effective than solving like hundreds of questions at your own pace. Because GRE exam is all about that, right? You have to solve as quickly as possible. So do that. Set yourself a timer, select 20 questions, set yourself a timer, and try to solve all those 20 questions within the assigned time. Now, the third tip that I would like to share is vocabulary. Now, if you are not a native English speaker, I can feel you because I've been there. There have been times when I saw some words and I asked myself, does that word actually exist in English? So I've been there, guys. Don't worry, you're not alone. Now, the thing that you need to realize is that at this point, it's impossible for you to memorize a dictionary, and there's no way you're going to do that, right? So I had two approaches towards this problem. First thing is learning the etymology of words, the prefix, suffix, the origin of the word. Now, this helped me a lot because there are a lot of words which have a common suffix or a common prefix. And once you know the basic meaning, you can, to some extent, figure out the meaning. Even if you don't know the actual meaning of the word, you can figure it out. The next strategy that I used was identifying the frequently occurring words. Now, you can go to Google and search for the most frequently occurring GRE words, and there are tons of websites which will happily give you a list which will have like, I don't know, 1,000 or 800 to 1,000 words. Now, again, it's impossible to memorize all the words, but even if you're able to memorize 30 to 50% of those words, you're sorted. Now, I also used a lot of apps on the smartphones. Like there was this vocabulary building app, GRE vocabulary building app, and those apps were really useful. I mean, those apps already have these frequently occurring words, and they really helped me. But the thing that you need to understand is if you think you're going to use this app while pooping or while commuting, and you think that, just going through the app while doing these activities will somehow put these words into your brain, that's not going to happen. Okay, you tend to get distracted a lot when you're using your app on the phone. The best way to use these kind of apps is to actually dedicate some time. I used to dedicate like 30 minutes a day, and I used to sit on the table, keep my phone, turn on the app, and actually write down the words using pen and paper. Like just write down all the words. And believe it or not, I actually made like 150 cue cards with the word in the front and the meaning in the back. And I had like a big chunk of cue cards with me, and I used to like go through them to memorize all these words. So that worked for me. Which brings me to the fourth tip, and that is Quants is your key to increase your score. Now, if you are not a native English speaker, then the verbal section is definitely going to be difficult. So the key to getting a good high score is to focus on the quants. Okay, so make sure you give considerable time for the quants section and try to make as less mistakes as possible in the quants. If you make less mistakes in quants, you tend to get a higher score, and then your overall score will be balanced out. So stay focused and make as less mistakes as possible when it comes to quants. I'm not saying that you have to put all your efforts and focus only on quants and neglect verbal section. No, don't do that. Focus equally, but then try to make as less mistakes as possible in the quant section because that's going to help you score a lot. The fifth point that I would like to give you guys is to attempt a lot of mock tests, but with the essays. Now, a lot of people actually miss out the essays. They don't give the essays, and I was one of them because in the beginning I used to feel like, come on, essays are not that important, and I can somehow manage with the essays. But the point is, when you write the essays during the exam, it's going to completely drain you out. Okay, and after writing those essays, attempting even simple quants questions will become like a big task. So what I want you guys to do is give practice tests. Even if you give like 5 practice tests, make sure to write 5 essays before the test. Simulate the entire exam scenario, guys. Sit in one place, write the essay, and then proceed with the other sections. Do not miss out the essays. If you're still watching this video, I'm impressed. And for you guys, I have a bonus tip. choose the right study material. Now, there are a lot of study materials out there, and everyone claims that their study material is the best. Before you pay for any sort of study material, make sure to ask for 1 week of free trial. Use the trial period to go through the content and see whether it's actually working out for you or not. I personally used Magoosh, and I really enjoyed studying with Magoosh because my exam was computer based and the content for Magoosh was also online. So basically, I was already, kind of training myself to give an online exam. So it helped me a lot. I used Magoosh as my study material, and I used to give my practice tests in Princeton. So I gave like around six practice tests, 6 or 7 practice tests with the essays. With the essays, that's the key word. So that's all for this video, guys. I hope you found this video to be useful. I got some questions on Instagram and LinkedIn after watching some of my previous videos, and you guys were really inquisitive and very polite in asking the questions, and I'm really glad that my previous videos helped you guys a lot. So if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up in Instagram or on LinkedIn, and I will catch up with you all in the next one. Till then, goodbye.